there are millions of franchises out there. Okay, not millions, hundreds of franchises out there. But this one, the Mission Impossible franchise with Tom Cruise, is easily one of the most consistent in terms of providing entertainment. Even if you pick the lower end of the spectrum of this franchise, every film on here is rewatchable. So no matter which one you pick, you're going to be entertained. But because he has created a new standard, I think, in these films, especially there's, a couple of them that are considered some of the best action films of all time, and for good reason. So when just a good one comes out, it's just not good enough. So that's what happens. He's created such a high standard that it's going to be impossible for every film to be that amazing. So I'll break this up into two parts, and I'll go with the ones I go back to the least, but they're still watchable. I'm not dissing them in any way, shape, or form, but I think most fans would agree that Mission Impossible 2 is probably at the bottom of the list. Directed by the one and only John Woo. I was really excited about it. I liked his work with Chow Yun Fat. So I thought this was going to be this really amazing action movie. And there is some great action sequences, but I think Tom Cruise at that point, he's still kind of trying to figure out the kinks of this series and how he's going to make it into a franchise. So with this one, they kind of started off with the love affair, like he's like a womanizing thing, like James Bond. That didn't really work for Ethan Hunt. The action kind of really kicks in towards the end, and it's just non-stop action a la John Woo, which is great. But the beginning, you kind of go, okay, like when does this start to happen? Like what's happening here? When does the mission occur? A little inconsistent. It's not. They're not really sure what this series is yet, and I don't think John Woo knew what to do with it either. But I'm not saying it's a bad movie. You can still rewatch this anytime, and it's still this. Just compared to the top tier of this franchise, it does fall a little short. Next up, and again, no way taken away from it. This is the very first one. This is the one that started it all. This is with Brian De Palma. There is an action sequences on here that, like, the train sequence at the end is amazing, but mostly this is a spy thriller and deals a lot with espionage. It's a different beast. Again, I don't think they were certain at this point they're going to make a franchise out of it. They weren't sure, but I don't think they realized what this is going to be at this point. But still, nonetheless, tension, like the part where he's hanging on the wires and the sweat's running down, you're holding on for dear life. There's so many tension filled sequences on here, but it's not necessarily this high octane action sequences. It's just tension filled, and it builds throughout the movie, and it's well done. I think Brian De Palma brought a very different and unique style to this. The opening sequence, how they get the team, reminds me a lot. If anybody didn't know, this was a TV series, and I think it was off the air for almost 30 years until Tom Cruise brought it to the big screen. So this thing's been out for a long, long, long time. The opening sequence reminds me of the original series. I watched a bit with my parents. I remember bits and pieces. And I said, this kind of reminds me of that. And I think my mother went to see the first one, says that's how it usually started. So I'll take her word for it. Third one is where the series kind of gets invigorated here and kind of finds its footing. This is with J.J. Abrams. He was known for a show called Alias, which was about a spy series. And I think he showed Tom Cruise a couple of episodes. And Tom Cruise, yeah, this is where it's got to go. So this is his most personal mission. What I like on here is Philip Seymour Hoffman as the bad guy. Wow, that just brought it to a whole new level. This was a bad guy that you went, like toe to toe with Tom Cruise. When they're together, it is intense. It is intense. And there's the Shanghai skyscraper sequence in there. Doesn't get mentioned a lot, but that was a great action sequence. And that, I think, started that kick where we got to go big or go home. This was the start of it all. Next up, I'm going to say, before they change the title, this is Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is where they introduce the threat of AI, and Tom Cruise has to figure out how to stop it. It's a good movie. The train sequence, again, is outstanding. The motorcycle leap, you held your breath. There's just something a little off. I'm not sure, the pacing or something. that brings this down a little bit on the list. It's in no way, shape, or form a bad movie, but I think it lacked a little something. Something didn't just make that. Like when you left some of the other ones, you went, "Oh my god, this one!" You went, "It's good," and I'm not saying it's not good. It's just missing something. I'm not sure what that is yet. So this is part one of my ranking. You let me know what you think. Would you have changed the rankings? Love to hear from you. Part two will be coming out soon. I'll see you soon, guys.